enemies.
What is up, guys? Welcome to the Transparency. This will be a Delphi exclusive.
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you?
All right, again, guys, what is up? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Well, it was an experience. Delphi is an experience, so it is my birthday, so thank you guys for saying happy birthday. I think I'm 27, give or take a couple years. So, well, people are all coming in. What you guys are going to see here that I'll be going back and forth to and from and zooming in is this is ton of the material. But let's start from the beginning here. I did a live and got off a live right as we were parking to go into Carroll County's, to go into Allen County Courthouse. And when I got off the phone with you guys with my live, and I actually immediately saw Baldwin and Hennessy. They were walking in together. Rossi was parking with his intern. And Baldwin and Hennessy both were rolling a suitcase, briefcase type. And also Baldwin had a large white case file box that he was carrying. So right before we had to get up to where you have to get in line, which murder sheet, they were the first people in line. I guess they were there before 6 a.m. But we get in line. They got to go in. The family got to go in a different entrance, but anybody that would be trying to just go in for the public, you had to get in the line. But Baldwin and David Hennessy was their representing attorney for the contempt hearing. He's walking in. He's an older guy. I think he's a cutie pie for an older guy. I put Daddy Hennessy on my hoodie. Let's rock it. But he's like, hey, Andy, step off for a second. I need to have a smoke. So before he went in, Hennessy was able to have a smoke. Once we got through to actually to be out of the cold and inside, I was kind of miffed. I'm not going to lie. I didn't get patted down by anybody, so I did not get that free feel up that I thought I was going to get. I basically made it through the metal detectors and all my work products / note, material, made it all through. My cell phone did not, obviously enter at all. Nobody's cell phones were allowed to go through. If you had a jacket, you had to take it off. If you had steel-toe boots, you had to take those off and put them through. So I was kind of depressed for like a minute that nobody felt me up. I usually get felt up when I go to, through TSA. So I felt like I missed out, or maybe they missed out. So once then myself and, Bella, we arrived in the courtroom, we were able to secure the first two rows on each side. Both were taken up by either family and or if you had witnesses, they were going to be sitting there. So when I arrived in the courtroom, I occupied the last row, the third seat to the back row, and Bella was on my left. Baldwin was actually, the way that they have the seating here is like the prosecution's this way, the defense was this way, okay? And they had a little podium up over on this side, like right where the prosecution is. And you could go to that to talk to the witness that was next to Gull. So the way that it was seated is that Hennessy was in the middle, Baldwin was on his right, and then Rousey was on his left. And then eventually when Richard Allen would make his way into the courtroom, he then sat next to Baldwin on his right. Okay. So when I sat down and took my seat, I immediately began to take notes because I didn't know what to expect. So I was basically people watching, head on a swivel, checking out how many, police guards were in there, what branch they were from, things like that. Immediately what I noticed is that Nick McLeland, the prosecutor, stood the entire time from 8 a.m. Until 9 a.m. when it started. So he was standing and he was surrounded by suits. I call them suits. 5 men in suits, and 3 of those men would go on to testify throughout the day. So Nick stood the entire time before 9 a.m. And he had his wire glasses on, his normal slick back hair, which you guys have seen in the latest press conference that he did. His hair is the same. He had a light 5 o'clock shadow. I mean, barely anything. And like I said, gel slick back. He was rocking a grayish suit with a plaid, tight plaid button up that was like maroonish with white, black stripes. It was tight though, like that checkered tightness. Think about Abercrombie and Fitch back in the day. Yeah, something like that for your button up. And then had a maroon tie. So there was 2 to 3 bailiff deputies that were stationed outside the front of the courtroom door. That was the non-public entrance. That was the entrance that Richard Allen would eventually come through. They were featured with dark khaki pants, almost like a brown, within like a dark brown top, long sleeve shirt with vests. I couldn't tell if it was a hunter green or a dark brown, but either way, think of, again, Abercrombie khaki pants that were that dark khaki color, not the light khaki color, with then like a dark brown long sleeve. They had the yellow patch, and they were sheriff. The Patties did not arrive until about 8:50. Same thing with Kelsey. She did not arrive. They, again, came in a different entrance, which was the same way that Richard Allen would be coming through. So the family, totally different entrance. Carrie Timmons, I saw her come in with her daughter. They traveled from Kentucky and stayed overnight to then be there in the morning. Derek, Liberty's father, was not there. I saw Abby's grandparents, and I did not see Anna. Not sure if she was or wasn't there. I couldn't find her. And I wasn't asking around. I sat next to an awesome gentleman, which I'll get into down the road. Rozzy was there, but he was with his intern, and they didn't actually make their way into the courthouse until about 8:45. He then met Rick Allen back behind, and then Rick Allen's wife and Rick Allen's mom, they were escorted in by Rosie and his intern. And then so she sat in the first row behind, the defense side. And they also walked in with 2 of the, I guess you say, private investigators for the defense. I won't go into who they are or what they look like. I will say that Rick's PIs hugged Kathy Allen for a long 30-second hug. I thought that was awesome. I like to see that support. And then Rozzy was dressed in an all-black suit, and he had like a light rose-colored button-down with a purple tie. And then, like I said, he was seated left of Hennessy. And then he began to read some papers. Hennessy was looking over some stuff. But Nick, he was standing the whole time surrounded by suits. And then one lady, who you guys will find out who that is down the road. Again, the Petties, they arrive 8:50. Kelsey arrives separately from all of them with, I believe, her husband. And then Tara and Tara's wife, Amanda, they arrived when the Patties arrived. And then we have a special arriver here at 8:50 a.m. Doug Carter walks through the door. Doug Carter dressed in his famous blue outfits that you see him in uniform. That's what Doug Carter was wearing, his famous blue. He was dressed in uniform. And then he begins to immediately communicate with Becky Patty. And then we have Toby Lazenby. He arrived, and he had his stash going. He had his Ranger banging hat on. Okay. Then it would become 9 o'clock, and we're about to get this party started, right? Well, Hennessy went back to chambers. Again, I was trying to keep I didn't know what to expect if something crazy was going to happen. So I was keeping my eyes on everybody. I don't know if he went to the bathroom, but it was just a quick 2 minutes back to the left. Then, like I said, Rozzy, however he wants you guys to say it, he was out waiting for Alan. Baldwin, again, was reviewing legal pads, notes. He had his glasses on then at that point. pen to mouth, one of his famous moves. Baldwin is actually a graduate of the University of Akron, so he's a zip right here, Ohio baby. Gall's clerk, oh my God, is a spitting image of Gall. Like literally take Gall and now take Gall minus maybe 20, 25 years. That's her clerk. And she actually sits like right in front of where Gall's at, on the stand. So at that point, Gall's clerk was working with a media guy because I was, I didn't know what type of evidence they were going to be presenting, if they were just going to be sheets of paper or if they were going to be utilizing any of the media. They did not use any of the media to like have like a laptop that was hooked up to like a down, pull down type display, like a projection screen. They didn't use that. Now, once Gall then gets in, so Alan then comes in. He's seated. He's in his all orange. He had a vest on. He was escorted by CERT team. So two of them sat behind him at all times during the trial or during the hearing. And then he sat, like I said, to the right of Baldwin. So it would be Alan's all the way to the right of the table. Then it's Baldwin. Then it's Hennessy. And then it's on the left is Rosie. So that's the table. Then I noticed that McLeland had a someone that was sitting second chair, and that name would be, oh God, what was his name? That was James Luttrell. And then there would be this female, and we'll come to find out who she is, and I'll save that. So now getting into the hearing at the beginning, I will say this, before the trial or before the hearing started, Rick Snay enters the building. Rick looked fine. Rick looked, I think he's still he's still thin, but he was totally not flushed, like pale. He actually had good color to him. Like he has more color than I have right now. So yes. But he was, I just think he's still kind of in shock. Because if this is like, you didn't do this and all this stuff is going on around you, this is a contempt hearing for something that you weren't even involved in, you're in jail, at the time. But definitely way more color to him. Well groomed. His hair, he was all buzzed. No facial hair. And, he would look back at, his wife and his mom as much as possible. When it, merited, like he was very, very engaged and was paying attention with everything that was going on. He wasn't jittering around or anything like that. He wasn't doing anything wild with like his mouth or like moving or like he wasn't, he was very, he was just a person that was there. So, all right. So this is about to begin. And right before it begins, I see Rick Snay, and I didn't really even know it was him until somebody had confirmed it. But he was up talking to Richard Allen's wife, and I think hugged her. That was a little bit of a blur. But because I was more like, okay, I'm waiting to see if there's any going to be, wild shit. So once Gall gets in, we all stand up. Okay, great. We sit down. It does not start right at 9, just a little bit later. Motion number 1 is the amendment. They want to amend to change the, what Richard Allen's going to be. They're taking 2 charges away and all that stuff. So they go through that. And Nick said that he was asking to do all this because the evidence is better matched with the PCA, and it's better matched than these charges. And then so they removed charge 5 and 6, and they added the 3 and 4. So no objection was had by the defense. Next thing that they talked about, a preliminary matter, was motion number 2, which was to seal all. And they wanted to withdraw a motion, and it was just to seal some stuff. And okay, great. Motion number 3 that they were talking about was the defense verified motion for continuance. And this is when Hennessy put in that he did a verified motion to continue this contempt hearing. And Gall said denied, yep, I got your motion and denied. That's it. Boom. And then he asked her, like, can I get more than just denied? Are you going to say anything on the record? And you're going to hear me talk about Hennessy and how he is. And, he was dressed. He has a tight goatee. He has his little gray, he's balding, and he has his little gray hair around like the back end. He's totally like, dude, that's like your grandpa. Come on. He's like, I don't know. He's just a cute little old man. So then we get here to it was all about getting to March 12th, get to the case, get case to trial. It makes perfect sense to me. And that's what Hennessy was saying. And then obviously Gall's like, yeah, whatever. That doesn't make perfect sense to me. The motion for to the change of venue. They objected. At the end of the day, everything will now take place moving forward in Carroll County. So, all right. Now, there was a preliminary matter that had to be taken care of. This is where Hennessy stands up and he says, Nick McLeland needs to recuse himself. He needs to recuse himself because he is a necessary witness. Nick McLeland this is why he needs to not be trying this contempt. He knows the details of the investigation. He was involved in the investigation. They're going to be talking about Logan's property and stuff to do with that. There's people out in the public that are more informed than the own defense attorneys were informed of. This was targeted by the prosecution for this contempt. It was a targeted, like this whole contempt thing. It was targeted because the prosecution's disdain for the members of the defense team. And he's basically saying that he needs to recuse himself because he was 100% involved in the investigation of this contempt of the leaks. Okay. He legit is a witness that we plan on calling to the stand. Okay. Because of his role in the investigation and because of whoever he talked to, we plan on calling him. Like, he chose to go down that path and to be involved like that in the investigation. And remember, I said that back in the day. I said, what is your prosecutor? He's up till 4:00 in the morning doing investigative work. Like, that's for your investigators. Like, come on. Well, so at the end of going back and forth, what ends up happening is that, Nick says that he doesn't need to be testifying. There's rules against it, blah, blah. Then Hennessy says something back. And then Gall just basically says, yeah, no, I don't see that he needs to be testifying either. And he doesn't need to recuse himself. So here we go. So then they said, anything else before we start this contempt hearing? He said, yes. I want to do a preliminary, Hennessy says, yes, I want to take care of a preliminary matter where I want to do preliminary questions to Holman, and I want him to get on the stand right now. Because this is all within the rules. And he says he wants to talk about the number of photos. There was stuff that he wanted to do. And of course, Nick comes back and he also wants to talk about Fig and the involvement that Fig Solves has with the relationship that he has with McLeland. That's another thing as why he needs to recuse himself. This is another thing that is why Holman needs to be, questioned right now to take care of some preliminary matters. Okay. Let's see. What was nice is that he got a lot of things on the record because he was talking about the leaks that the prosecution are probably involved in. They all came out obviously before Rosie or Baldwin were involved in this case. And when you want to talk about the penalty phase of if you were going to find them in contempt, all of this matters. So that's what Hennessy got in there. And he's like, This actually does matter because it's about punishments. It's about punishments of contempt. Because remember, you're going to want to be consistent here because there's other leaks out there and they 100% did not come from the defense. So basically, it just was reminding her of, all right, well, yeah, this is a discretionary thing. And all of this is going to be relevant come a punishment of what you think you're going to do. Because then what you do here is when you want to talk about other things that have happened in this case, there was a leak way before Baldwin and Rossi ever took the case. Okay. So, then Nick had something to say back to that, which was, this is all preliminary matters. So then the reply by Nick, he said that, that Fig is irrelevant. Okay. How is it relevant for what we are here for today, Your Honor? We are here for the defendant contempt, extraordinary circumstance, the counsel, the witnesses, Westerman, how many photos did he take? Other ways to do it. That's what then Hennessy was saying. You know, we have to determine, like, is this the true and in fact leak? Are there other leaks? You know, things like that. And this is criminal contempt, and you have the right to present evidence. Indirect criminal contempt, no, is what we're talking about. And so then McLeland said, or Hennessy said rather than, hey, this has to be published publicly, that McLeland right now is making false statements, and that this has to be a willful act that you knowingly. So he's like, for example, an email. That email was addressed to Brad, not to Brandon Woodhouse. So how could he willfully send it if he was writing, hey, Brad, comma, 4 lines. So, again, Westerman, I don't believe he showed up to his deposition. I'm trying to get more clarity on that. Again, it was hard to understand Hennessy. He has a hard time hearing, but he also talks kind of, but it echoes in that huge, we were in the superior courtroom. It echoes in there. Okay. The ceiling is like, take a vaulted ceiling and now double. It's just, it was hard at times. Gary Fig, the defense said, we can't get him here, and tried to shift this burden. Like they could, though. The prosecution did. And, he's not here, but they want to shift this burden by having others testify. All right. But he's like, but Nick is here because they want to let in all this hearsay. And that's why I believe that it's going to be actually outrageous that they didn't let some of this stuff, or they let some of this stuff in. There's a dead guy and there's a guy that's not even there. So how you can't even cross-examine any of these people. How are we letting screenshots in of communication between a dead man and a guy that's not even here to then cross-examine? But I thought it was great because Hennessy said, but guess what? Nick is here. He knows everything. He knows it. And he should have been prepared. It's not my fault that Nick isn't prepared, but we're calling him to the stand. Like, come on. Woo! Like, come on, get with it. Well, Gall denied this attempt to be able to have Nick be able to testify, and denied Hennessy's verified motion to have, like I said, Nick testify. And then in the middle of this little preliminary matter, Gall starts talking to Nick, and Hennessy stands up and just starts talking. Okay. Starts talking. And she's like, I'm talking. Don't interrupt me. They just start going at it. All right. And she's like, you need to wait your turn. I'm talking. Don't interrupt me. You need to wait your turn. To those effects, something to that effect. And then she's like, okay, preliminary matters. Anything else? Anything else? And the state says, no, we don't have anything. And then Hennessy says, can I approach? I have a supplement. Hands it to Nick, hands it to, her court reporter to do her thing. And then he said that these people, because this is a big thing, he was like, this needs to be continued because We have information that we were just given, and we need to have these people here so they can testify. And Tyler Carpenter, who the fuck is Tyler Carpenter? How does the prosecution not know who Tyler Carpenter is? Basically, like, you guys had the resources to get these people here and you didn't. And then we want to get them here, so we need more time to go through, and your guys are going to hear about it, to go through discovery that we just got, and to be able to get these witnesses here. Gull doesn't believe that these outside people are relevant, she says. But if in the end they end up being relevant, she'll consider it. Something along those lines. So here we go. Before the matter starts, you could try to get an exhibit. So Exhibit A was a publication, January 2024. No objection by the state. So that Exhibit A was admitted into evidence. It was just, discovery delayed. Then there was this big ordeal about discovery delayed. The state police report did not have attachments on March 1st. We only saw pages up until 33. But then here they added all the way till 272. So from page 34 basically until 272, we didn't have until I want to say the Tuesday before then, that Monday, yesterday. So this is all things to like that they're trying to, Hennessy's trying to throw at Gull to say this needs to be continued. And she's like, deny. He also said that, so this is where it gets good. Woodhouse YouTube, this misdirected email, this outline, Sergeant Holman, Mr. Snay, we just got 3 or 4 days ago, we got new stuff from Mr. Snay info. We got additional screenshots. We need more time because of the discovery delay, and we renewed this motion for a continuance. So Hennessy's not letting it go. Like, literally, he kept going over, like, and it was awesome to see. It was like, and he's just spitballing everything, you know. And then back to Nick. ISP report, he says, we had it done Friday, but you didn't want to drive to Delphi and get it on Friday. That's why you got it on Tuesday. Because you didn't want to drive to Delphi. And I'm thinking to myself, why do I have to drive to Delphi? Like, why can't this be sent to my email? What are we talking about here? How much stuff? Then come to find out, you guys, we're talking about hard drives. We're talking about external hard drives. We're talking about 25 external hard drives that have hella mega terabits on them. 25 of them. But it was funny to hear him go back. He's like, we didn't even get this ISP report, until Tuesday. And then Nick gets back up. He's like, well, you didn't get that report back because you didn't want to drive to Delphi. And then we tried to attempt to get it to you. And that's why you got it on Tuesday. But it was this big report about the Holman Woodhouse thing that we're going to get into. So then Nick again says, none of this is relevant. These screenshots, relevance. He just said, relevant. Hennessy says, there's specific reasons here. Fairness, justice. These supplemental motions matter. And she just kept denying. Hennessy next said, all right, my next preliminary matter is Judge Gull, you should not be fucking hearing this. There should be a special judge assigned that requires a special judge listed in the rules, IC, and then 34. Then he was like 2A, blah, 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 blah. So, he's listing off the rules that basically there needs to be a special judge for this. Okay. And then Nick, so after he speaks, then, okay, counsel, what do you have that he's saying? Nick says, this does not apply to this court. And then, so he's objecting to a special judge, and they're talking about indirect contempt. And so she says, well, your objection is noted. Okay. We're noting the February 17, 2023 protective order on discovery, recuse of the judge. Because remember that you need to be recused from this. And he cited the emails as exhibits from the judge. So it goes back into Hennessy's hands. And he's like, hey, do you remember the emails that you were sending when you're like, I want this investigated. We're going to get to the bottom of this leak. So he's basically saying, Judge Gull, you were involved in the investigation too. Your ass needs to be recused, just like Nicky Boy. Both y'all, bye-bye. Because Nick, you a damn witness, motherfucker. So And he's citing Exhibit A, Exhibit B, October 8th, 2023 email, October 22nd, 2023 email. These were not objected to. They were admitted into, as exhibits. And basically, Hennessy is summing this all up to say, I want Holman to take the stand right now. I got some preliminary questions for him. So he tries to get him on the stand. I was like, hell yeah. This is all within the rules, all within procedural rules. And when you got somebody that's just so, he just knows, he knows the law, you know, he knows this is the rules of criminal procedure. Contempt is a criminal matter. And so he wants to get fucking, he's like, I want Holman on the stand right now. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is gonna be an amazing hearing. And of course, Gall breaks up my party. And no, that's not gonna happen right now. Like, what are your grounds and blah blah blah. So that, you know, the motion of recusal, court conduct its own. He's like saying, you need to recuse yourself, Gall, because the court conducted its own investigation. You were involved in this investigation. The reason that he was offering proof, like, here, let me get good old Holman up here, because once I have Holman up here, Hennessy is saying that I'm going to ask Holman why he threatened Fortson by saying, I'm going to call the judge right now and ask her how she wants to deal with this. We're going to get into that. So all this is on the record too. So when you want to talk about appealing things and things like that, they preserve the fuck out of the record. And my notes preserve the fuck out of the record if they try to do anything crazy. I'm a witness to this shit. So she denies it. She says that she did she did nothing is what she said. She gets puzzled up there and she's like, that's denied. She did nothing. She wasn't involved in this investigation. Okay. Gall doesn't believe that these outside people are relevant, but if in the end, you know, we'll deal with it. There's a brief opening statement asked by Hennessy. So Hennessy gets to give a brief opening statement, and then Nick McLeland gets to give a brief opening statement. And now here we are finally getting to the hearing, which is the contempt hearing. And in the brief opening statement, you know, Hennessy reminded her willful conduct. An email signed to Brad, but it happens to go to Brandon Woodhouse. That is not a willful act. Within an hour, realizing it and saying, "Oh my God, you need to discard that, you know, email." You need more than Westerman. You know, he says Westerman breaking into Baldwin's office, okay, and this whole ongoing leak. November 22nd, 2022 is when the gag order was asked for. It was granted, and this is where it gets good. So basically, they give their both opening statements. Okay, she says, you may call your first witness to Nick McClellan. And he's like, all right. Rolls up his hands. Oh, are we doing birthday shots?
Happy birthday!
Yeah, birthday shots.
You ready?
Yes. So Judge Gall says, okay, you may call your first witness. And then immediately Nick says, I want you to take judicial notice of the press release by Rossi and Baldwin. Please take judicial notice, Judge Gall. And he read out, you know, things about that. This little prick, this little man, because I don't like funny business, but Nick McClellan tried to pass off the press release that Baldwin and Rossi did, tried to pass it off, saying that it was on that your order came out on December that 1st, and that's the same day as that their press release came out. Well, here, no, the order came out on the 2nd, December 2nd, and the press release came out on the 1st. He oral argued and tried to slip it in there and so Gall looked it up and she's like, well, no, what I have here is I see that I did the order on the 2nd and that the press release was on the 1st. So immediately Hennessy stands up. He's like, exactly. So that's irrelevant. This press release is irrelevant. There was no gag order. And there, for the first time, Hennessy got a win. Yep, inadmissible. So that press release did not make it into evidence. Boom, done, out. So when you guys want to look at, hey, remember those 4 things I read? And these are the ones that, what this is about. The first thing, that press release, gone, out. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. Cheers.
Is that your cheers? You're like the worst at cheers. Can we do a real cheers?
Okay, so here we go.
Here, cheers.
Oh, cheers. Cheers. So let's continue on because this gets good. So I thought that was great. He said there's no relevance to this. There is no gag order yet. So, and God, it broke Gald to say basically like, yeah, this shit ain't gonna work. And so Nick again tries to say that the order was on December 1st. No, the issue here is contempt. This cannot be contempt. This is the day before. And then she says, well, it's the weight versus the admissibility. I'll take judicial notice, but it's, the weight versus the admissibility. So is it admissible, but is there any weight to it? Now defense, calls, I'm going to bring you guys in here, their first witness, and we're going to go right here. This is in orange. And this would be Stephen Mullins was the first witness. So we go to orange here. Let me get you guys a zoom in here. This is my badass. Oh, wait. There you go. By badass handwriting there, too. First witness, Steve Mullins, investigator. And during 2020, he was with the prosecutor's office. Before that, you guys know what he was doing, right? He was the police chief in Delphi. So 22 years experience. Then, oh God, this was great. He asks him a question. McLeland asks him a question, and Hennessy stands up and is like, objection. He's like, relevancy. He didn't want to hear shit about this man's career. Okay. His role in the Delphi investigation. He says, objection, relevancy. What does that have to do with the contempt? What does his role in this Delphi investigation have to do with it? Okay. And he withdrew the question and then says, okay, well, what was the objective here then of what he's like, okay, Mullins, we're just going to hop right to it. This contempt hearing, right? Brandon Woodhouse, what was your involvement? Well, Brandon Woodhouse became and was put on, it was, what do you call it? He was put on my radar, okay, in March of 2023. And I had to view his YouTube channel. There were screenshots of the list of evidence. So he's like, all right, state's exhibit number 2. He approaches him. Can we get this document in? Do you remember what this is? Can you identify it? And he's like, yep, that's a screenshot. And it says Richard Allen's thumb drive. It's a picture that says Richard Allen's thumb drive. And Hennessy says, yeah, no objection. Get that bitch in there. Okay. Let that be in there. That's great. And he said, okay, so what was your role? He's like, I assisted in exchanging discovery with the defense. I would create a list, files, and I would go and meet with an agent of the defense, and they would have to sign for when I would hand them over discovery. Okay. And then he's like, all right, exhibit 3 is a receipt of, it was Mullins would draft, like I told you, like receipts of the discovery. And so that was exhibit number 3. Objection. Hennessy says, I object to exhibit 3. Okay, what's grounds of your objection? This was never given to me. And Hennessy says, I don't care what you gave Brad Rosie, however you want to say his name. And I don't care what you gave Baldwin. I have never seen this. This was never given to me. Object. I object. So then He's like, oh yeah, I gave it to them. I gave it to him. He's like, give me a minute. Nick says, give me a minute. I'm going to start looking in my emails because I most certainly sent this into the discovery email to Hennessy for this hearing. So here we are, and you start hearing the Jeopardy. This is what it felt like in the courtroom for me. I was like,
Jeopardy music?
yeah, yeah. Here you go. Nick is intensely looking for this email. It's dead silence, okay? I'm sorry, Your Honor. Just give me one more minute. I'm like waiting, okay? What do you guys think happens? Motherfucker can't find it. There was no email. Okay? No joke, no email. He can't find it. So there is no offer of proof then. There is no, he's like, so guess what? Exhibit 3, that motherfucker didn't get in. Okay. Not admitted because guess what? He's like, I never received this. I have no idea what you're giving me.
Yeah, he's like, I received it.
He's like, I didn't receive this. This was never given to me. He's like, yes, I sent you an email. And then he's like, hold on a second. And then starts looking for it. Literally 2 minutes. I'm telling you, we sat there for 2 minutes. And I'm telling you, I know what that feels like in a courtroom. Those 2 minutes had to make Nick feel like 30. Them's facts. Back at it. So guess what? Exhibit 3, not in. Again, he was looking for the date of the email of the attachment given to Hennessy. And as this was happening, Baldwin and Rossi are huddling with each other and Hennessy during the playing of Jeopardy. Okay, so they're huddling because they're talking about this. Then next up, what else do you do this so that they move on? What else? I would draft receipts. Okay, that was your role. Yep. Jeff Turco. Let's talk about that. That's the Purdue professor. Okay, so they go into this line of questioning with the Purdue professor, and he talks about an audio interview and when he gave that interview of the Purdue professor. When did they pick this up? September 27th, 2023, he believes. There was no documents to show any of this. Mullins, on the stand just says that he remembers, yep, and he spitballs this date, September 27th, 2023. Doesn't even show him anything, okay? Thought that was interesting. But, spitballs this date. Then... next up. Wait, never mind. Was allowed on electric device. Rick Allen's thumb drive. So then we get to this, which is, he says, so this goes on cross. This is on cross-examination now. All right. So he says, I have no more further questions for this witness. Now Hennessy gets up. Now this is cross-examination of your first witness, which is Mullins. Okay. Hennessy says, Rick Allen's thumb drive. That wasn't a thumb drive, was it? He said, no. So it was a picture. So wait, you watched Woodhouse's YouTube channel. Is that correct? Yes. And so you saw a picture of a screenshot? Yeah, and it said Richard Allen's thumb drive. And he said, so it wasn't a thumb drive, though. There was no pictures, right? Were there any pictures? He's like, no. Was there a map of the thumb drive? No. And then he says, well, didn't you just say on direct examination that you create the discovery lists and then you send them over to the defense, and you create, in fact, these digital discovery maps so that the defense can go and find where it is in this plethora of 25 hard drives where you can actually find the material? And he says, yes. He says fucking yes. He's like, right here. I create itemized lists like a map. And that is exactly what you saw. So then he says, and that's exactly what you saw on the screenshot of David, or he was calling him Woodson. He was like, on Woodson's YouTube channel. He was like, kept calling him Woodson. I was loving it. He must be a sportster. So he's like, wait, so you just exactly said that you type up these maps so that you can find where the items are located and you hand them to the defense. So that's what you draw up. That's what you give them. And so he says, and that is exactly what you saw. He's like, was there any substance to it? He said, no. Okay. Any pictures? Did Woodhouse show any pictures on this YouTube channel? No. Did you ever contact Woodson? He's like, whoops, Woodhouse. He says, no. Dude, he says, no. Did you ever contact Woodhouse? No. Okay. Did you actually see the email? Did you actually see the email? He says, no. You know how hard it was to write this as I'm like trying to believe if this is truly happening at the moment? He says, no. He says, you didn't see the email, who it was addressed to? He says, I have enough to do. Didn't have time. In quotes, I quote that from that motherfucker. I have enough to do. In quotes, didn't have time. He says, and the courtroom kind of like busted a little bit. He says, you have no information on the actual email, like what the email says? No. Do you have any information, knowledge that he intended to send the email to Brandon? He says no. Like, he just answers the whole intent. Do you have any knowledge to Mr. Baldwin having intent to actually send it to Brandon versus Brad Rosie, his, counterpart here? He says no. That's what this is all about. He says no. Then he says, did you have any other role? What about these other leaks? He's like, wait, let me back up. I have to back up. So let me ask you this. And he's like, no. Then he's like, did you have any other role? No. With the other leaks? No. March 3rd, 2024, Depot. Did you see screenshots displayed on your YouTube channel? And he's like, you know what? Fine. He's just like, I don't have any more questions right now. After he got this out, which was bomb tits, like, this is ridiculous, right? Then it was redirect. And Nikki McWheelan had to get this in. Something you created. Was that something you created that you saw on Woodhouse's YouTube channel? He says, no. So it's not something you created. He's like, no. And he's like, I did not create that document. Well, you could have fooled me when you said on your direct examination that that's exactly what you created. Okay? That's exactly what you created. He said it was an outline listed. There was a juvenile name in there. He said, yeah. He's like, what was the date of the email? If it was before or after the seal date? He's like, I don't know. Then he says, the affidavit, like he wanted dates and the guy didn't know. Then he asked about Fig, something to do with Fig. He said, I don't know. I don't know. Then the question I thought was just awesome was Hennessy then, because since Nick redirected, Hennessy gets recrossed. And he says, let me get this straight. You had time to watch a bunch of YouTube videos on this Woodson's channel, but you didn't have time to read the email, which is the cause of this leak? He didn't have anything to say. And then he said, so you are not aware. Do you know who the email was addressed to? He says no. He said no. Wait. Do you know that the email only had 4 lines and you didn't have time to read the email, which is what you were supposed to be doing? Like you would. And did you know that it was addressed to Brad, not Brandon? That didn't kind of like tip you off that this was not meant for this person? But he's like, no, I got it, but because you didn't look at it, right? You didn't have time. You had enough to do. We'll get back to what you had time to do, though. And then fucking like, boom, no more questions. I looked to my right. I looked to my left. I'm looking all around like, how are people taking this in? Because if I was the family, I'd be one pissed bitch. Like, what the fuck is... Number one is this email, and you don't even read the email? He didn't even know. He had no knowledge of the context of the email, who it was assigned to, who it was addressed to, nothing. But the best part was his quote. I had enough to do. I didn't have time. And then he comes back with, but you had time to watch all these YouTube channels, all these YouTube videos. Dead. Fucking dead. Boom. Mullins, sit down. Next, you may call your next witness there, Nick. All right. Well, the state will call. We'll go ahead and we'll call Jerry Holman. Come on down, Jerry. You're our next witness today. Cheers. After all the preliminary mumbo jumbo stuff, I tried to mix it up here. For every witness, it was a different color coordinate this shit. I did pretty good, I think so anyways. So here we go. Jerry Holman. We're going to start with Exhibit 4, date of email to Woodhouse, and they talk about the date, okay? ISP Academy 2001, and then, of course, Hennessy's over here like, I object to any of this. We don't need to know what the fuck he did in this investigation of the Delphi case. This is about a contempt hearing. All right, we're going to go right to it here. What was your role in this contempt matter? Well, I received a call from the prosecutor, Nick, and he says, October of 2023, I got a call from Nick, who received info from Becky Patty that there were crime scene photos leaked. So Becky Patty called Nick McWhelan, and Nick then calls Jerry Holman, okay? And I said, well, fuck, I think Becky Patty could be a witness to this. And I think it was very tasteful that they did not call Becky Patty. Okay? I think it was very tasteful of them not to call Becky Patty. But they would have had every right to call Becky Patty that stand. You guys know that, right? So put that in your back pocket. When you guys want to talk about the defense and not having like Couth or something like that, Hennessy would have probably had every right to call Becky Patty that stand. And he didn't. Okay, so that should tell you about people and who really has true, where the integrity lies. Okay, and truly who has it. Based off of this answer, Becky Patty 100% in it. But that needs to be noted for everybody to wonder and say here. So please understand that Becky Patty called Holman and said, called Nick and said that she'd received leaked crime scene photos. Nick then calls Holman. Okay. Exactly. I would like to see some dates. So here we go. Next. And then he then says that Green Lee and whatever her name is, the murder sheet people, they then call Holman. So that's interesting that Becky Patty calls Nick. Okay. Nick calls Holman, and then Murder Sheet calls Holman. Okay. Again, this is really important, the wording here. They called him. He didn't call them. Very, very important. Okay. Let me tell you something. In college, I never took notes because I had a note taker. That's what they give you when you're a Division I athlete and you're always traveling. You're allowed to have note takers to take your notes when you miss, classes, and that way you have the notes. And go look all into it. It's all part of also the Title IX movement. But at the end of the day, I'm like, fuck shit, I could have been a note taker for somebody. They would have probably aced their shit. But yeah, so I felt like I took more notes yesterday than I did my whole entire college career. I want to go on the record and say that. So here we go. Then he wants to discuss. So then he brings up an exhibit, and he's like, here we go. And there's none of these exhibits are page numbered because these exhibits have multiple pages. And Hennessy's like, well, what page are you looking at? And Holman, because he knew that they weren't labeled. And Holman says, I don't know. There's not a page number on there. He's like, yeah, I know. It's kind of difficult, isn't it? Fucking loved every second of that. It's like, wait a second. How are these not numbered? That was really irritating. Because it matters, because you're talking about if you're trying to identify which crime scene photo, what you guys are going to see here that you saw before or you didn't see and where you saw it, things like that. So he's like, what page number is that? And there's not a page number on that. He's like, yeah, it's kind of difficult, isn't it? Priceless. So here we go. Side by side by defense attorneys, photos. He's like, I never saw that photo during my investigation. The first time I saw it was in the deposition of myself. Okay. Then they're about to talk about Mark Cohen. And he objects. This is where Hennessy objects because he is showing him he's showing him things, but this next exhibit, he shows him, he's like, can you tell the judge what you're looking at? Do you know it? Can you identify it? Yes. This is Murder Sheet sent me screenshots of all of the communications between Robert Fortson and this Mark Cohen. Okay. So Murder Sheet turns over all these screenshots between two guys, not any of which are them. Okay. This is between Mark Cohen and Fortson, allegedly through Facebook. Hennessy stands up and he's like, objection. He said, this is hearsay. Relevancy, hearsay. He's standing up. So he objects to the fact that Mark Cohen sent to Murder Sheet crime scene photos. He's like, Fortson's dead. He can't. Is Mark Cohen here to testify? No. Well, we can't cross-examine him. This is all hearsay. This is hearsay. What do you guys think? You guys think it's hearsay? You guys think that he's like that? He's like, are you talking about Mark Fort? Is that? He's like, is that the guy that committed suicide? Yes. So he's not here. Is Mark Cohen here to testify? No. Well, who's testifying to this shit? The Murder Sheet rat people were there. Call their asses to the stand. But again, it's hearsay. The conversation was between Fortson, who committed suicide, and Mark Cohen. You understand that? And what Holman is trying to testify to here on the stand is during his investigation, what he uncovered. Okay? So he says that Mark Cohen sent to Murder Sheet crime scene photos. Several screenshots from Mark. Pictures that Cohen sent them. Did you recognize them? Yes, they're the crime scene. Okay. Now, how he ends up testifying to this is what he says. And this is what I want to know what Rick Snay wants to say about this. My source told me that Rick Snay was there for one reason and one reason only, to testify. Okay. And it was going to be a rebuttal witness to this testimony. Okay. This testimony right here, what I'm about to tell you, is the one and only reason why Rick Snay was going to be there to testify. And please let this resonate. Holman says that he is looking at pictures that I'd never seen before, because when we redact, when the state, the police, okay, when we redact it, we redact in rectangles. These were redacted in circles. Okay. Now, you guys know what a redaction is? Let me show you. So here I make a demonstration, and he said that Liberty's private parts were redacted by the state, did them in squares, and the defense did them in circles. And the state's exhibit that he is trying to introduce here is State's Exhibit 5. And these are multiple documents, plural, okay? And these are photos received from Murder Sheet to given to Holman, okay? And he says, how do you recognize these photos? And we want to admit these under seal. Defense coming at photos, no objection. So he wants them to be in. So the defense has no objection to this exhibit. You know, and trust me, Hennessy wants to, he ain't gonna let no bullshit in there. Absolutely, go let that in there. Rick Snay was literally there for one reason only. And it was to rebuttal this bullshit, which was, wait a second, the crime scene photos that I received, they were all squares, no circles, which means that they could only have come from the motherfucking prosecution side of things, because the defense did all of their redactions in circles, because that's his testimony. And then this motherfucker, Rick Snay, wants to swing his dick around and, I don't know, chest bump people, doing belly bumps. I have no idea. None. But all I know is that myself and Bella literally knew that we were on a time crunch to go grab our lunch. We go to the Bradley, grab our lunch, and we're trying to hustle back so much that Rick Snay gets into it with some other guy who at the time I didn't even know who he was. All right. And you got to be shitting me. There's two murderer girls and a guy that's his life is on the line, and you are so pissed that I don't even know. Somebody said something about your what? I don't even know what it is. But yes. And I actually, I was actually around him last night. So I got to meet him, you know, for the first time. I don't get it. I don't give a fuck about, I don't pay attention to that shit. I didn't even know any of this had taken place. Only thing I gave a fuck about was once I found out what this testimony was supposed to do. You are one sick motherfucker, man. That is so fucked up. His testimony was to say the crime scene photos that I received all had rectangles, which means that there was a different leak, which means that they couldn't have possibly come from the defense, because the defense is circles, and it goes with the testimony when this dude wants to testify right here. He is testifying that the defense did their redactions like that. Boom, like this. So then I said to myself, wait a second, these were redacted crime scene photos that went out? Because I thought they were just crime scene photos. These were redacted crime scene photos? Yes, Slew the Goosey. And that's what they were trying to prove. And I think they did a good enough job, you know, proving that. But I'm like thinking to myself, y'all are going crazy over crime scene photos but they were redacted. Then to me, those aren't really crime scene photos. It's redacted. But we're going to get into all that. So here, I have no idea who anybody is testifying to. All I know is that this is what this man is saying. Okay. But I'm trying to preface now why it would be so important that Rick Snay not belly bump people and start cussing people out and getting into it with other people. I don't care if somebody eggs you on. Okay? Like, you don't have any self-control. That's God, I would be so ashamed of myself to let, if somebody was counting on me in this type of a capacity. Wow. I just can't even. Anyways, moving on. So this is the testimony here. Okay. And he wants this into evidence. So he lets Exhibit 5, which are these documents. Okay. And so, how do you know, I just read all through that. And then now we're getting to Exhibit 6. Okay. Let me get you down here. Now we're going to get into Exhibit 6, which is, now this is going to be a bundle of other documents and communications. These are screenshots from Facebook. Robert Fightz, Mark Cohen. And then I was trying to make sure, well, what are the names of these Facebook accounts? Do they really say this? Do they really say that? And so, but then here it comes out again. How many pages are those? I don't know. They're not listed. He's like, yeah. So I just thought that was great too. And then let's see. He said, how many pages are in Exhibit 6? Nobody knew. How many pages are from Murder Sheet? Nobody knew. And then here's Hennessy. Objection. Hearsay. Hearsay. This is all hearsay, you know? So she objects, or he objects to, Hennessy objects to number 6. Let's see. It's not going to the truth. Objection to relevancy. No connection to Baldwin or Rossi. Hearsay. She overruled the objection. Gall overruled the hearsay objection to say that, wait a second, you have a dead man and you have a guy that's not here. That's who the communication's between. Okay. And neither of them are here. And so we don't have a chance to cross-examine these people. And so therefore this is hearsay. Okay. And I believe it's hearsay regardless, but then they could have went out and got these people, or at least maybe the other person. Cause he's like, oh, the other guy's dead. And yep. No, she freaking overrules this objection. And then he says, okay, what did you do next in this investigation? He says, I then interviewed Murder Sheet. Then I interviewed Cohen. This is this order. And then I interviewed Snay. So remember, Becky Patty calls Nick. Nick calls Holman. Holman then gets a call from Murder Sheet, okay, with the pictures. And then he interviews Murder Sheet. He interviews Mark Cohen. And then he interviews Snay. In this order is what he's saying. And I'm thinking, why did you interview Snay before? Like, when did you talk to Robert Fightz? Like, we're going to get to the good stuff, right? Then what did you do? Well, went through documents, did an interview with, Snay, then Kyra, to determine the source, and then got to Fightz. Okay. Fightz was next. So Kyra came before Fightz. Okay. Then subpoenaed Facebook. I did not examine the Facebook messages of Fightz and Westerman. Westerman was up next. What'd you find out there? Well, guess what? I couldn't find out anything because Westerman's phone was locked, and it's going to take them at least, they said, 2 years to try to break through that lock, which is password protected on some type of an account. And when you're doing all this coding, and you could try to use different software or whatever, but they told them an estimate of 2 years to try to get into that phone. Special. And then he was like, well, how did you find out? Now, again, here comes in Hennessy, and he's just like, objection to, this is a derivative of hearsay. This is all hearsay. This is a derivative of hearsay. And he's like, no, this goes to the course of the investigation. Okay, over. So he's like, this is a derivative of hearsay. And then Gall says, okay, what do you have to say back to that, Nick? And he's like, well, what I have to say back to that is that this is just a course of the investigation. Okay. Overruled. You may continue. Then he attempts to call to talk to Robert Fortson, and he said he had, this is a little lie. He's like, I had 2 numbers. This was his testimony. I had 2 numbers. I called the first one and it said Robert Fortson. I left a message. Then I called the other number that I have, and it was Bob Fortson. Bob Fortson is his dad. But he said on the stand, like he had 2 numbers that belonged to Robert Fortson. No, motherfucker. You had 1 number that belonged to him. The other number was to his dad. But then you talked to his dad and told his daddy. What would you tell his daddy? Scare his ass? And so he's like, yeah, I talked to Bob Fortson, and Bob Fortson told me that he's probably at the Air Force Base right now. Okay. And I'm over here just like, this is crazy. So let's see. So then October 10th comes around, and he's like, I attempted to talk, and it was very little, to Robert Fortson on October 10th. And then he found out that Westerman used to work for Baldwin, but he still doesn't work for him. He doesn't work for him now anyways. And then he found out, so this was on October 10th, and then he said, I got a phone call. What happened on October 12th? And he said, well, I unfortunately got a phone call that said that Fortson had committed suicide. And that was on October 12th. Yes, we do talk about the interview. That comes up in Cross. So how Nick McClellan handled that so that wouldn't be a lot. He just said, I got very little out of him. So that's how that was handled. So then Holman says that through his investigation that Baldwin was giving information to Westerman, and he was doing it through Facebook and Reddit. That's how they were communicating. And then Hennessy lost it. He's objection. Because Holman, the way the form of the question is that this was a continuing leak. Objection, Hennessy says. And he says, I object. This is, for them keep saying this is an ongoing leak. This is, and then finally Gall says, sustained. Like there is no, he's like, ongoing leak. He needs to stop using those words. What the fuck? This is not an ongoing leak. There is no offer of proof. What is he talking about? Where in his investigation? So then they were asking him, he says, I have some preliminary questions to ask Holman. So again, part of the rules. So here he starts asking, and he's like, yeah, objection. This is unfucking believable. Not only is this hearsay, but now we're getting into misrepresentation of like this whole ongoing leak. There's no facts and evidence here. What the fuck are y'all talking about? And so boom, like, Hennessy was on it. Okay. He may be hard of hearing. Okay. But he is smart as a whip. He knows the law. He knows the courtroom. She sustains it. Okay. The professor interview, September 2023. Why did you interview him? Well, the only reason we went back and interviewed the professor was because during my deposition, we didn't really even know who he was. But then once I found out his name, then I went and interviewed him. That's how he explains why they went and interviewed the Purdue professor in September of 2023. Thank you there, War Eagle. Appreciate that. Yeah, 7 months, baby. I almost have our baby. So okay, Fortson talking about Cohen, again, objection, hearsay within days. Again, you guys, she let in the exhibit of Fortson and Westerman's screenshots of their Facebook without dates, timestamps. There's no dates or timestamps on these. First of all, it is hearsay that this was brought in. Like, nobody is here to be cross-examined on any of the context around any of this. So So what I keep hearing people want to talk about, look at all the hearsay that Lana gets in on these hearings and these cases. What's up now? Hearsay is only hearsay until it meets the exception rule. I don't believe that any of this met any of the exception rule. I'm sorry. 100, especially how everybody got it. Like, the fuck out of here. And then you guys, at least my fucking here says dated and timestamped. This shit didn't even have, wait till the cross-examination of this happens. When Hennessy's like, this is so good. He's just good. He's just good. I really wish there was, I love you, Lana. I love you, Jen. I just truly wish that there was, that people got to see this, because this to me this is how the courtroom should be. Everything should happen like this. There should be a hearing. People should be dragged in, as witnesses. This was, if you like and love law, it was very amazing to see. People passionately advocating for what they believe in, for our rights, for bullshit, and people getting called the fuck out. These police officers looked like fucking jackasses. Doug Carter having to sit in there and listen to this shit. Some stuff may have been irrelevant for that fucking type of a hearing with the dismissal due to dates of certain things, but that shit is not irrelevant for the case. That shit is so fucking relevant. And when you guys get to all hear and realize what the hell happened in this investigation, and that nobody should be arrested for this case right now, because they lost almost every fucking interview. They didn't just lose the interviews from February 13th to the 20th. They then lost all of these interviews from April 28th until June 30th. June 30th. April 28th, June 30th. All of those. Try to go find those. Unbelievable. Just like how do you wait till you hear how he tries to explain Mullins explains this new DVR that he went and bought, and that just how this could not possibly record, and that it was recorded over. Nancy, thank you. Happy birthday, Lana. Oh, all of you guys, thank you so much. Yes, I celebrated my birthday in Fort Wayne last night. Today's my birthday though, but yeah. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you guys, all of you guys. Sorry, I was reading from paper, so I get to see this stuff. Happy birthday to you. I love your compassion and your Atlanta brains too. Thank you so much. Yes, we think that we bring facts here. It is what it is. But Nancy, thank you so much. Good to see you flexing that wrench up in this motherfucker. But back over here. Again, objecting to hearsay. She's just letting shit come in. Now here comes the cross-examination of Hennessy, of Holman by Hennessy. And let me back out of this just a second so I can. I mean, you guys are truly getting I think one of a hell of a kind of a play-by-play. I'm not gonna lie, man. My hand hurt. My hand hurt a lot. My hand was really. It was something. Oh, Boston. No, Boston's in here. Woohoo. Oh, JJ up on this piece. Yeah. Oh, Nancy, I'm sorry that you don't feel good. Hey, girl, you got to do your life, man. You pop in when you can. All right, so cross-examination. So here he says, only time you saw conversation between two people, so it wasn't publicly disseminated, correct? That's correct. It was, it was not publicly disseminated. So the gag order is public dissemination, correct? Comes out first question. So only time you saw a conversation between two people, Facebook or something like that. So it wasn't publicly disseminated, correct? No, I didn't. Yeah, you're correct. Okay, yes. And then you only gave us 33 pieces of the discovery and then 272. Is that correct? Yes, yes. Westerman's affidavit filed. Did you file that within those 33 pages? When did you file the Westerman affidavit? How did we get our hands on that? You know, because they were trying to act like they didn't know these 272 other pieces didn't get, sent over and blah, blah, blah. They're full of shit. But he catches them with but you managed to put the Westerman affidavit in there because it was, after the fact. So how could we have that but not this other shit? You guys get it? I get it. That's all that matters. So then he says, so no evidence that Rozzi or Baldwin shared with anybody. Isn't that correct? He said, that's correct. He says, yeah, that's correct. So you have no evidence that shows that Baldwin or Rozzi shared information with anybody in your investigation. He's like, that's correct. Okay. So, and you guys are there any charges pending against Baldwin? Are there any charges? Did you guys charge Baldwin with anything? He said, no charges. He's like, okay. And there was 5 photos from the crime scene from murder sheets. Is that correct? Blacked out at the deposition. Yes, I believe so. The side-by-side one, Abby, what was that of? He asked. He says Abby and an asterisk. And so, and this is where it gets interesting. So he's trying to get down this number because they oral argued at the beginning, and he said that you guys are trying to say that Mitch Westerman took 9 pictures, but we don't believe that there's 9 pictures that came from Mitch Westerman. And we're going to talk about that. And we have evidence to show that actually, we got something else. We can prove that there's pictures out there that Mitch Westerman has nothing to do with. Fortson, nothing. Or he didn't say Fortson. He said that Mitch Westerman, and that we believe it's something that if you guys are trying to use the number 9, we're looking at 5, but let's get down to it because there's another leak then, right? Thank you. Happy birthday, Lana. A big thank you to you and Bella for all you guys do for us in the true crime community. What is up, Canadian true crime buff? Shake your tail feather. Good to see you in here. It's been a minute. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Happy birthday. Yep, 27. 27 years old, you guys. Can you guys believe it? All this gray came a lot earlier. All this gray. And thank you for the kind words. Yep, I do think I took some pretty good notes. My memory definitely helps. I thought Bella was cheating off of me a couple different times. I think I cheated off for her. No, it was actually nice sitting next to her because there's we're hitting each other with our feet. Like when somebody would say something, I'm like, did you just hear that? Like, I couldn't believe some of these fucking answers. When this man said that I had enough to do, I was too busy to read the fucking 4-line email that you're investigating. You didn't even read the goddamn. That's why you're investigating in the first place, but you don't read. I was hidden. I was like, I cannot believe what I'm hearing right now, but I have to report on this somehow. Well, just get those in there, Lana. Just keep on going, girl. Just keep on trucking. What was the other one that I couldn't believe? Well, we'll get to it. There was a lot of moments that I was just like, this is wild as fuck. I was like, this trial, this is gonna be anything but boring. Yeah, I had a lot on my plate. Yeah. So here we go. Again, this is the cross-examination of Holman. So then he says, okay, this is what he argued to before he did his cross-examination. At the end, Mick Leland tried again, roping everything up. So in the course of your investigation, you uncovered that there was an ongoing leak. He's like, objection. This conclusion. Fuck, he's not allowed to be given no conclusions of anything, blah, blah, blah. And she finally said, sustained and stricken. And it was like, boom. So we want to talk about who was really hitting home on things with like this is them. Lana, you stayed for the motion to dismiss. Yes, I stayed for it all. I have everything. Like I said, 9 hours of straight writing. I couldn't even feel my hand. Couldn't even feel it. Yep. I probably won't be giving any hand jobs anytime soon. Or if I did, that'd be horrible. They'd probably be horrible handies. Yeah, make sure you guys hit the like button or hit the dislike button. But either way, I just hate when people don't have an opinion. So just have an opinion. Don't be no fucking fence rider. Like it or don't like it, you know. But you definitely have a feeling. So say something. Sleuthie says, "I'm so someone would still be grateful." Yeah. Strippers in the house. When you hang out with strippers, you don't have to do any work, guys. It's so amazing. They're just so used to working all the time. They're just working girls. So, you know, hang out with strippers. I have some really good friends that are strippers. So they like my humor. Okay, where are we at? All right, let's move on. Oh, here we go. Now, you said that you saw that side by side. You never saw it before until your deposition. Okay. And then I saw Baldwin make him and Rosie both looked at each other. And I was like, oh, shit, here we go. They're going to get him on this. And then he moves on. And he's like, okay, well, let's talk about that let's talk about that Fortson interview. Fortson, right? Now, you threatened him with jail time. Isn't that correct? You straight up threatened this man with jail time. Isn't that correct? And now he's dead, right? And then you threatened him with contempt. And you threatened him with calling let's get back to this part where March 1st, 2024, who's Monique has text messages with photos, closed before the police. I don't even know who Monique is. Maybe her name is not Monique, but I don't even know. It sounded like he said Monique. Monique, I know you turn me on. Show me what your thing is all about. We're gonna talk about some crime scene photos. This the public dissemination. He's like saying no to this. I said nobody reported it to the prosecutor. He was talking about like you have all this stuff going, so all the things that were happening prior to Rosie and Baldwin ever coming out of this case. Were you guys calling the prosecutor for all of the leaks that were going on? Did you have any role in any of those leaks? What did you guys do? All these people, Hennessy is deaf, boss. I love him. I think he lies about being deaf because I think he knows because he's like, huh? He just blurts it out. I love it. And then she's like, do you need a hearing piece?
That was horrible because then the gallery started laughing. I hate that. And because he said, huh? When she said, do you need a hearing piece? He was like, didn't hear that either. And he's deaf at least in one ear, or hard of hearing in one ear.
Yeah. So, but he was asking Holman, okay, so when all of this other stuff was happening, were people calling the prosecutor's office? You know, what were you guys doing? Nobody reported to the prosecutor? You didn't investigate it? He said no. He's like, I got no more further questions for this witness. No,
he said Fortson asked for counsel.
Oh, well, yeah, but no, that comes on redirect. So after redirect, then there's another, I put my stuff all in order. Bella, calm down. Okay. So, he then digs into about, okay, so did you have, it's on recross. He's like, do you have Gall's phone number? Do you have Gall's phone number? How are you going to just call her up? Didn't you tell him that you were going to call the judge right now? And isn't it true that you continue to ask him questions after he invoked his Miranda, he asked for a lawyer, didn't he? Yeah. And you continue to still ask him questions, didn't you? So you were violating his Miranda rights, right? And he's like, yes, he's admitting to violating this man's fucking Miranda. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, okay, so So how does it work? You were just going to call the judge and ask the judge if you just want him to handcuff him, or how does that all work? And he's like, well, I really didn't know how it would work because I've never dealt with contempt before. So I just figured I would be the one to just deal with the judge. That was his answer. And he's like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, but then when I talked to the prosecutor, Nick, about it, he said, no, I'm the one that would be handling stuff like that. Dad, his Fourth Amendment rights. Yes, he violated his Fourth Amendment rights. Yeah, what a moron. Yeah, that gets really good. He's like, didn't you say that that you're gonna really ruin things for Mr. Allen? Didn't you also say that, in quotes, that this is all bullshit and you basically, what was it? This is all bullshit and I don't give a shit about this. Yeah, it don't bother me because this is all bullshit.
Bullshit to me.
Yeah, and then he's like, yes? He's like, yep, that's what I said. And then Doug Carter's just sitting there listening to this, and I'm thinking to myself, how embarrassing, man. You guys, this is just wild. So then we get to, redirect. So then here, Nikki comes back over and he's like, okay, any authorizing from Baldwin and Rozzi, as far as like in those messages, again, objection, hearsay. He's like, objection, hearsay, opinion, conclusion, objection, relevancy, conclusion, law, opinions, not supporting by facts. And she over fucking ruled that. Because then he says, no, you opened the door. Nick McClelland says that David Hennessy opened the door to start talking about the material in the messages. And then I think Hennessy said, well, along the lines of she already let it in. She already let it in. Those exhibits are already in. It doesn't matter if you ask me questions about it. She gets to still view these documents, you dumbass, basically. So, so it was just like, so here he goes. And he's like, so she overrules it because he objects. And this is going to be Exhibit 6. And he says, open the door for the messages to be read and testified to. And so Robert Fortson, writer to Westerman, it was about permission. It was about, so then he says, in this, when he was reading some of these messages, he was trying to say, like, who's asking who for permission? He said, well, it looks like they're waiting to get permission to go post whatever or something like that, however he worded it. And again, I mean, everything just being, it was like a long running objection. At the end of the day, we get to this part, which is, they just want me to punch holes in all of their stuff. And I thought that this is really important. Yeah, Fortson says they just want me to punch holes in all of their stuff. Like, it's kind of like a war room when, like, here, this is what we think we have, but we need to ask people questions that aren't lawyers. We keep looking at it and we think it's all great, okay? But we need to, like, do more or less what you call like a mock trial, like a jury mock. And so all that was wrote in one of these messages is they want me to poke holes at things, Thank you there so much there, Murky Piglet. Oh, thank you. Brutally honest, thank you so much. Girl, I'm going to have some jello shots on that. Boston supports Lana. She's passing out some Oprah Winfrey Truth and Transparency memberships. War Eagle did the same thing. But I will definitely go get myself some here after this. So punch holes at it. Defense got the girls. Let's see, phone records. Abby Libby. Oh, okay, yeah. This was fucking killer right here. No, I shouldn't say those words, but check this out. This is where I lit it up, and I was like, holy shit. In one of the messages, it said that, now if you're going to take all this for truth, that Fortson and Westerman messages, or I'm sorry, not Westerman. This is Fortson and Cohen. Okay. This is not Fortson and Westerman. This is Fortson and Cohen. And it says this. The defense got the girls, in plural, phone records. Abby and Libby's, how many phones are we talking about here? But they finally got the phones, and there's some really good stuff in there. Right there. And so anybody that thinks that there was only one phone that day, I am now throwing it out there. This is why I put it out there, why I believe, did Abby have a device? Maybe it wasn't a cell phone, but there's ways that, like, I could give my son, I can give him a device and he just doesn't have a number to it. But if he has Wi-Fi, he can use it to communicate if he was to have any of those apps. So please look at that right there. And it was like the defense, got the girls' phone records. There's some good stuff in there, end quote. Yeah. No, he did say Baldwin. He just said he didn't give a name. He said the defense. Well, the Purdue professor says the exact opposite. Dude has said suppression hearing October 2nd, 2023. So he's basically just here reading these messages. Like, he's asking him, here, will you read this? Here, will you read that? Yeah, this is Nick's redirect, and he's having him read messages between Fortson and Mark Cohen. And did you tell him you would call judge? Did you threaten jail? Did he ask for an attorney? Did he invoke counsel before? And he's saying yes to all this. Bella's photos. Tyler Carpenter. Never found him. Yeah, well, if you guys want to see and hear Bella's version of the order, you're welcome to go on and watch her channel when she talks about whatever it is about this. But this is what I took from it. So Bella is not Bella over here, but it's that Bella girl. And he was talking about this Tyler Carpenter. And he's like, I don't even know who Tyler Carpenter is. You don't know who Tyler Carpenter is? Well, Tyler Carpenter is another person. Tyler Carpenter was basically providing that Bella girl with those crime scene photos. And he's like, that's where she got hers. How is that not relevant to see who these leaks are? If your role was to investigate to see who was the leak provider, why wouldn't this be relevant? You know what I mean? No, that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying that when they're oral arguing to know if something would be relevant or not, Gull is saying that this isn't relevant. And it is relevant, you know? So go ahead and ban Christopher Cooper from the chat. Thank you. But yeah, they said that they have no idea who Tyler Carpenter is, what their real name, or if that is their real name. And why, because it's like, why didn't you bring them here? Why wouldn't you investigate this? Because this person that you guys talked to, because you said you talked to this Bella person and that Kira person, and they're telling you guys that Tyler Carpenter was the person who you got crime scene photos of. Well, Tyler Carpenter is not the name Mitch Westerman, and is not the name Robert Fortson. So why wouldn't you be investigating that? And Gull wasn't having any part of that. Gull wasn't, because McLeland was coming back and he was saying that is not what we're here for. That is not what we're here for. And it's like, well, when you want to talk about an investigation, what this person did or didn't do, why wouldn't you be investigating, those people? And I think it had a lot to do with the fact of when on one of the responses was that Baldwin wrote an email, or Rosie did, and said that that Mitch Westerman did come forward and say that he took these pictures. Okay. And so that's kind of what they use as like their crutch to say why they were investigating it this way. Well, why it would be relevant if Rick Snay Poo wouldn't have got kicked the fuck out, it becomes all relevant. Okay. And once his testimony would have been, taken and considered, because he would have been testifying to the fact that, no, I got all square, redacted pictures, which means it could only have come from the prosecution side, because based on this guy's testimony, the squares were the prosecution side of redactions and circles were defenses. So how does Rick Snay have prosecution pictures? Ding, ding, ding. But Rick Snay can just take he could take a seat. He could take a seat. Because that testimony was needed. That testimony was crucial to talk about what his pictures looked like and what they had on them, and how those were redacted. And it's just, so moving on. So he's like, no interest in knowing who had them. This was what on cross-examination, when Hennessy was like asking him these questions, to be able to sit there and listen to, if you're truly an investigator, so you had tunnel vision. Because normally what you would have done is, when you're investigating this, if you truly did talk to Rick Snay, like he says he did, and that's why he's relevant, because he was going to bring him up because that's who he talked to, and that's how it would be relevant why the defense could call him, is because Rick Snay told you that he got pictures that were only this. And that's what it should have taken you then, and started focusing your investigation, not just on Fortson and Westerman, but should have taken your investigation to other places, because it's relevant then. Because Rick Snay had something different. Okay? And that's how you're able to tie things in and rope things up, and when things can be admissible or not objected to and sustained, versus, okay, yeah, overruled. This is, you interviewed Rick Snay. Rick Snay was part of being one of the people that were interviewed by Jerry Holman, and that fucking asshole wanted a belly bump because somebody said something about his wife, So Tyler Carpenter, you made that decision with Nick. See, then again, I thought that this would be grounds to say that if you're making decisions with Nick in the investigation, then this is why he is relevant as a witness to talk about his involvement and talk about what he did, what was his role, So you made that decision with Nick. Okay. And they were talking about, this has nothing to do. He's like, this is why this Christina Mack, did you talk to her? No, don't even know who she is. How many photos did Westerman take? Didn't give an answer. Downloaded from someone's Facebook. So Fortson downloading other phones or photos, Fortson other source. Like, none of this stuff was, it was just, they're not doing anything with it. There was this, and all that Nick put his little hat on and hung his head on is this is not what we're here for. Well, yeah, you are. You're here for this contempt, which is the leak, right? Which is crime scene photos being leaked. Well, who leaked them? So let's see. So then he says to him, did he even mention Baldwin? And he's like, I think he may have said Andy. And he's like, well, didn't you interview Baldwin for 2 hours? Was he cooperative with you? Did he answer everything that you wanted? Yep. I mean, everything, So Rosie and Baldwin both interviewed at length about all of this. Very forthcoming, being honest. Phone records. Oh, that was our thing. He's like, well, if you want to try to connect Baldwin to Fortson did you go look at Baldwin's phone records? Did he talk to him? And he's like, I don't know. I think we got him, but I didn't look at those. that wasn't my job. Well, I'm sure you would have heard it through this investigation. He's like, yeah, no, I don't think there's any messages, or I don't think there was any calls. So like when you want to talk about like the scope of this like investigation, like this indirect, indirect contempt is more or less like it was whatever. So no phone, just discussion. Don't recall. We just discussed it. That's what he says. I don't recall if they had any communications. Did he mention Baldwin? No. Okay. Let's see. Wasn't a crime scene. Oh yeah, this is the other thing. He said the reason. He said, well, there was these pictures floating around when the first responders or the people, the search team that found the bodies, they were taking pictures. Isn't that right? And he's like, yeah, but it wasn't a crime scene yet. That was his answer for this. It wasn't a crime scene yet. And then Hennessy's like, okay. It was a crime. It wasn't, he's like, it wasn't a crime scene yet because there wasn't any yellow tape and stuff like that. So technically those aren't considered crime scene photos. He's like, but they're pictures of the crime, right? Like, what?
It's not a crime scene because it's before law enforcement was called.
Yeah, wasn't a crime scene yet. Photos with the sticks and the girls coming from separate parties, coming from the search party. We don't really care about those leaks because it wasn't a crime scene yet. Because the police weren't there yet. Okay. But those are from the search party. They clearly, what are their intentions? If you're going to search for 2 missing girls and then you all of a sudden are just sending out pictures, like the fuck? Yeah, I wonder what your, it's interesting. It's interesting to like, that would be like, what were your intentions? Why did you really go and help? What were you helping for? Who passes out that? So September 23, actually here, I think one of my things got out. What's this? Is on exhibit. Okay. The Turco interview, October 2nd, date of messages, Robert Fortson to Mark Cohen, Facebook. You have no about this. This isn't technically a crime scene. Again, conclusions, objection to that because he can't be doing that. Rephrase. What was your conclusion? That the leak was ongoing? Again, objected. She finally, sustained. Really? And then he said, certainly. So she let him answer it that way. And he's like, it was great. Because Hennessy was like, really? You're going to sustain that? You're going to overrule that? He didn't change the form of the question. And he was like, really? And she's like, certainly.
But Gold also concurred when there was an objection. Gold said, photos are not taken by police, so it's not crime scene photos. Gold actually said that too.
Yeah, and she actually said it wasn't a crime scene yet.
Yes.
She used the words, it wasn't a crime scene yet.
The photos aren't taken by police, so it's not a crime scene photo if it's not taken by police.
And then that's when they said, well, it's
a crime scene.
Yeah, it's the scene of the crime. That's what he said. It's the scene of the crime where the crime was at. And it was insane. It was insane and it's just like, well, don't you want to know who those sick people are anyways that would be passing, that around?
And that's when she said, I'll give it the weight about the leak. She goes, I'll give it the weight of the discovery. Please.
Yeah. So then she goes back to, again, recross Mr. Fortson's credibility. Let's talk about Mr. Fortson's credibility. And I thought this was a great, recross. Now, did you know that he pretended to be a lawyer? Was he an attorney? Did you research that? And he's like, what? He's like, well, yeah, no, he's not an attorney. And so, thanks, Boston. And so it was great because he's like, so he lied, right? And it was going to show that. So he just makes shit up, right? Just like these messages here. He's not here because you wouldn't go get that fucking Mark. You wouldn't go get the Mark Cohen guy, and then Fortson's dead. But here we have these people he's pretending to be a lawyer, right? Okay. And he's not, right? Okay, so there, and then he's like, yeah, that's one lie. Hennessy was basically saying you could write, I could write whatever I want to a message to somebody. It doesn't make it true. It doesn't mean it's true. The fuck out of here.
Before that one, he goes, Gull says sustained, and Hennessy goes, really?
Yeah.
She goes, certainly. He goes, thank you.
I love him. I'm going to totally get a Daddy Hennessy hoodie.
He said, that's about the first objection that you snuck in and the judge sustained. He freaking told Nick. He's like, that's about the first objection that you snuck in and the judge sustained it. So, there you go.
Yeah. Let's see. Again, he brought up the whole phone records again. He's like, so we go back to these phone records. Or no, before he does that, he's like, so you said on direct examine, or he was redirected. He's like, during redirect, you said that you brought up the name Andy, and like something about, then he said, and one of the things he said he had to go to Franklin, right? And so Holman's like, yeah. He's like, well, did you do any research on these people? He's like, did you? Yeah, he's like, do you know if any of these people have any connection to Franklin? Like their lives, like Westerman? He's like,
he goes, no.
I don't know. And he's like, well, do you know that Westerman, he's connected. He has a girlfriend in Franklin. Did you know that? He's like, no, I didn't know that. So would you think they would ever meet in Franklin because maybe he has a girlfriend there? Like, it was just wild, like listening to like watching how you shred someone's narrative. The way that Hennessy went about it,
There's nothing that says Baldwin. It'll say Andy, but it doesn't say Baldwin.
One time in one of those things it says Andy. Nothing says Baldwin. And then there was no dates. This is where we get to the part about these no dates. So there's no direct contact. Did you find any direct contact? He said no. During your investigation, direct contact between Andrew Baldwin or Rozzy with any of these people. And he says no. So during your investigation, there's no direct contact. No. Okay. Like, again, how are you going to sit here and say that these people can't be held in contempt? Okay. So then, going back to those phone records to Baldwin, did any of them trace back to him talking with any of these people? He's like, no, I don't think so. I mean, it came up in discussion, but we don't. And he's like, well, you'd be aware of that, wouldn't you? Like, you would know that. You're communicating with command, right? Get out of here. So, crime scene. No reference to Baldwin, correct? And that's correct. Nothing to say. I talked to Andy, right? I'm with Andy. Never say any of those things. When he say, hey, I'm here with Andy. He's like, no, those weren't said. I'm talking to Baldwin right now. Those said, no, I'm out here at the crime scene with Andy. So Hennessy's a smart ass. He's like, none of this is in there, is it? Hey, is there anything in there that says Barbara McDonald leaked anything? Is there anything about Barbara McDonald in there? Then he says, did you investigate that Barbara McDonald leak or what? And he's like, no. He's like, do you even know her? Like, what do you, like, how did you say, like, he's just like looked up there like an idiot. He was just an idiot. And then do you see in any of those messages where they say, we want to push this out to the public? Have you seen those in any messages where push it to the public? Fortson wanted it to go public. Where does it say anything like that? He never said put this out there to basically damage the prosecution. Did you see that anywhere where he says put this out there so it damages the prosecution? He's like, no, that was not said. Okay. Anything about pushing this out to the public, put this out there to the public. We want to destroy the prosecution's, case. No. All right. So what would be the purpose of this? What's the willful intent here? What's going on? Next up, Rector. And this would be the third and final witness for the state. Yeah, Exhibit 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, that's what it kicks off with. And that they reference throughout it. Rector was a detective with the ISP, Indiana State Police, 2011. October 6th, you located Woodhouse? You had a conversation with him?
Rector also worked the Flora fire, okay?
He did? Okay.
So Rector worked the Flora fire, but Rector is one of the people who were depoted 2 weeks ago. One of the 4 who were depoted. So Rector was there, and then go on. Yes, he was a detective with the ISP. So he worked the Flora fire.
And he's like, okay, well, so October 6th, locate Woodhouse. Okay, have a conversation. No, so he was to locate Woodhouse. Don't know if he did. That was one of his things. Then October 12th, he had a conversation with Rosie, and he interviewed him, and then Baldwin, and he interviewed him. So Fortson, Westerman, no. With Rosie, answers, consult, no. Like, they were asking. So basically, during this, him talking to Baldwin and Rosie, they were at, like, were there any ties to any of these people? Like, were they being forthcoming? What were they saying? And everything that you guys have pretty much heard about, that's been it. Like, he was forthcoming about it. He said that Mitch said that he took pictures, and that no, I didn't give him permission to do that, and that was it. And he supplied that information. Baldwin told him Westerman knew him. He outlined and gave him some more information on October 9th. Afternoon text from Mitch showed us. He texted him on October 9th, and then he just showed up at the office because he wants to break the news to Baldwin in person that he basically, this is what I did. Okay. And he says, are they on your team? And he, I would strategize with Westerman. And that's what you call war room. You're going to hear about that in a little bit. 1 or 2 days before the Franks motion, September 18th, was there a non-disclosure agreement between them? No. Woodhouse thumb drive map. It talks about that. The Franks, Franklin Cobb. That was like really weird what they were getting into right there. I was like, yeah, next. Search warrant, Westerman. Okay, so he performed a search warrant on Westerman's stuff, the electronic devices, cell phones, and was not able to, it was blocked. He couldn't get into it. 2 years is when they told him that they could get into the phone. It would take 2 years. Then they got a search warrant for his iCloud, and it belonged to Mitch. Search warrant to Apple. So they were able to get stuff from Apple. It was like 50 or 500 gigabytes of data backed up from Mitch Westerman's, device. His iCloud rather. And they were like personal photos. And then this is when they said they found some messages. And this is when he testifies to the fact that these messages, we don't hear about the testimony until on cross. So he says, yep, they had personal photos. That's how I knew that it was his, and that they came from his device. Exhibit 10, screenshots on the iCloud account of Westerman, and the name Andy is mentioned in a message. And then, so are there any dates? No dates, no timestamps. No dates, no timestamps. Okay? Now, you have to remember something. They worked together. Okay? So you're telling me you're downloading, and then you try to do it through, to get these iCloud messages, and you go through the search warrant, and you're downloading stuff, and you have no dates, no timestamps. Really kind of weird. So again, these were all screenshots though. These weren't messages between them. They were like screenshots from a different device in there. So it's like screenshots. Again, I don't know how to best to say this, but these weren't the actual messages. These were pictures of screenshots. So again, they were arguing about the relevancy with stuff because again, this is all like where's fucking Westerman? You know what I mean? Like what the hell's going on? Again, relevant with context. We will know. Oh, that's what he says when he was objecting to the whole like, guys, this is not even time dated, nothing. And then their response back to that was, we're going to know based on the conversation in it of the dates. Well, then let's start talking about that. They don't talk about that at all. They seal exhibit because Mr. Rector, I forget why. Exhibit 10, light gray. Oh, yeah, the messages. But they seal the exhibit. Light gray means it's incoming. Dark blue is outgoing. They say the name Andy one time. A proximity of when they were sent or received. Nothing. Fortson, Cohen, Facebook account. Again, nothing. Okay, no substance here. That means otherwise there would be stuff there. That's how my shorthand started working because I was dying at that point. This is right before we get to lunch. This was the last witness before lunch. And so this was a cross-examination, which is these screenshots. So no photos between Westerman and Baldwin, right? And he said, yeah, none. None. So wait, you have Westerman's device, right? But there is no screenshots between Westerman and Baldwin, right? Yeah, no, there's not. Boom. Boom. Who are these screenshots between? You know what I'm saying? They're between some other fucking people. Okay, so you interviewed my client for 2 hours, both of them, right? Yep. Did they have any direct contact with Fortson? Didn't ask him that. I have to take a break. I about spit my drink out that I didn't have, but that I just had right here. Listen. He says, I didn't ask him that. The fuck are you talking about? He says, Hennessy just asked him, so was there any direct contact between, in those messages or ever that you came across in your investigation between Baldwin and Fortson? Was there any direct contact? And he says, did you ask him that? If he's ever had direct contact? And he's like, I didn't ask him that. In the 2 hours, in the fucking 2 hours that you interviewed him, you didn't ask him if have you ever been in contact with Fortson? His answer on the stand was, I didn't ask him that question. So this is where we have to ask ourselves, guys, is it truly corruption, okay, that we're dealing with here? Or are we dealing with inept motherfuckers? No pots up here. No brains.
It has to be corruption when you're sitting in a room full of all of these officers and you are hearing things that we heard yesterday and nobody is blinking an eye and nobody is standing up and saying, wait, this is wrong. And whether or not you think Richard Allen is guilty or not, the fact that there's things hidden, you should want to investigate why that happened.
I'm an investigator and they're giving me free reign at Baldwin right now. And I don't ask Baldwin, hey, so have you ever talked to Fortson before? Do you even know who this guy is? Have you ever heard his name before? This is a guy that committed suicide, right? Yeah, you gotta ask me. What? You're investigating this leak. We don't even ask him that. I just can't even. Then on October 9th, Baldwin said that, yep, he showed up at Baldwin. This is again, cross-examination. On October 9th, told the courts. So he told the courts within an hour, right? Because he showed up at Baldwin's on the 9th, and then he told the courts on the 9th. So within an hour of him coming on over, Rossi contacted the courts. Isn't that correct? So they immediately, right? Because remember Becky Patty. How this whole ball got rolling is Becky Patty called Nick. Who can just call up a prosecutor like that? You go to the police, right? Hey, there's supposed to be a gag. Go to the police, but no, Becky Patty calls Nick. Nick calls Holman, and then Holman then gets a phone call from Murder Sheet. Now that's interesting to me. But whatever. So where are we at here? Did you what's from enforcement connection? Oh yeah, was there a connection? What was this connection? This leak. What about let's talk about the Logan's property. He starts asking him, now how did Murder Sheet have the Logan Ron Logan probable cause affidavit?
No, he said and there was a watermark on it.
He's like, why does all this evidence have Murder Sheet on the watermark, the logo? He calls it a logo. He's like, do you see that logo down there? That's Murder Sheet. Now, why is their logo on here?
I heard from somebody else.
Have you?
I heard from somebody else in the gallery that every time they brought up Murder Sheets, Annie or whatever, I don't know how to say her name, was like huffing and puffing. Every time they said something.
Who's Nick? I know. Again, who told Becky Patty? Becky Patty must have been in those groups. For all we know, maybe she's Tyler Carpenter. I don't know. No, guys, I really don't know. But I'm these notes, like, you guys can clearly see I couldn't just make this shit up. I just didn't sit there for fucking 9 hours and make this shit up. I'm sitting there looking around briefly because, like, I have to write all this stuff up. Like, it was hard to pay attention to people's reactions, at least for me, because I had to write all of this stuff, right? But I will tell you this. We listened to a woman who was sitting in front of us, and she said she's from Delphi. She didn't have no notebook paper. She told us that Richard Allen is guilty as shit, and she told us that Liggett is this amazing motherfucking person.
No, she said Liggett was going to win the election no matter what. And I was like thinking maybe she meant because of corruption. And she said Liggett was going to win no matter what. Didn't matter. And I said, oh, really? Why? She goes, because he's amazing. I've been on rides with him and his wife.
I said rides?
On motorcycle rides with him and his wife. And they're amazing people. I said, oh, so yeah, Richard Allen's guilty. And then she went in to disparage somebody that I really like and said, this person got a hold of me, this YouTuber got a hold of me and just wrecked like everything. And I'm like, oh, she just, after Richard Allen was found guilty, because we're neighbors, we're like 2 doors down from Richard Allen. And I said, oh, okay. Like, so she got a hold of you because of that? She goes, no, I was already talking to her prior to that. And basically giving her info, and that was all good.
Yeah.
But then when Richard Allen got arrested, then this person became a pariah, apparently, according to her. I don't know how much of that I believe, but you guys in Delphi that live in Delphi, if you sat through this and you don't see that there's a problem with these investigators and there's a cover up and everyone is playing cleanup and it's like, everyone's just like,
because the best part about it was about, you guys got to still hear it. You get to hear it. And it happened. And then the judge is just whether or not it's quote unquote relevant, admissible because due to a time period. And that's what we're going to get into with the second hearing.
Oh my God, it's horrible. So they brought in a special prosecutor, right? Named Dina.
Okay. Yeah. We'll get
to that, but that's what she's talking about. But yeah,
okay. So thank you.
Do you want to talk about what that chick said or you're done?
No, fuck that chick. Yeah, fuck her. She wants to take up a seat in the fucking courtroom with her biased ass. Go right the fuck ahead. Those are the type of people that in the United States of America, I'm sorry, but I can't even listen to someone like that.
That's why I love Baldwin, because he gets it.
Yeah, like, you ungrateful fucking bitch. We live in a world that you are innocent until proven guilty. You have rights that people you would want to advocate for you for, like, the way that they're doing it, especially around all the fuckerage. And I had to sit behind somebody that talked about that they know how guilty somebody is. Bitch, you don't know shit. You don't know a motherfucking thing. I will tell you that. And you're probably going to be that person that doesn't go and vote local and vote for anything that fucking matters. But you're that one that goes on the internet saying, make sure you vote for your president. Stupid fuck.
It just made me feel bad when Richard Allen's mom she had to walk out for whatever reason for a minute. And she just stared her down. And it's like, this is supposed to be your neighbor's mom, right?
Yeah.
So.
And what does she have to do with it?
This is just it. You guys, like, Keep voting the way you're voting because God forbid it happens to you.
Well, just or keeping just keep living in your bubble. The fuck, you live in a bubble. That's all you live in a fucking complete bubble, and it shows. It shows the ignorance. The ignorance from that woman was just you could smell it. Like, bitch, you don't even have to say a word. Looking at me, trying to see who the fuck I am, bitch. I'm wearing a goddamn patch on me. It doesn't say yeah, and it doesn't say Odin over here. I was like, I am displaying myself as media.
She did. She goes, these YouTubers, and then she's like looking at our not patch but badges.
My badge. I wore a badge.
Our badges.
Yeah, bitch.
And then you
Let me wait. Where is my badge? I want to show the world my badge. I think it's in my coat pocket. Can you hand me my coat over there?
What coat?
That one over there to the left. Yeah, it's in that. I'm gonna show you what I made to be so official, like JLR. Love you, Jonathan. I was like, here, you want to see my motherfucking badge, bitch? It's my badge. She's like, oh my God, you're sitting by somebody next to Fox News. I said, I give a fuck. You think I give a fuck about?
You're like, I am Fox News.
I said, I am the news. I said, I am the media. Thank you. I'll take my badge.
No, I'm not going to give you the wrong badge.
I want my badge. Give me my badge. Thank you. So I made a nice little lanyard. Okay. A nice little lanyard. I went with orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors, guys.
What's her favorite color?
And I went out and bought all these pieces so I could complete the fucking prize here. So I went out and bought a little clippy thing that you clip it, okay, and in my lanyard, and it tightens up. So depending on where you are and how close you want it to be, and then you could actually undo it too. It's pretty cool, and it actually was super cheap, really surprising. And then I got this little plastic piece. All right.
Everyone go make your own lanyard.
And then here's my lanyard.
Everyone make a lanyard.
I said, I am so fucking official. There you go.
Wearing it right now?
Look at this.
Can you please wear your lanyard?
Allen County, Indiana, courthouse reporting, Monday, March 18, 2024. Media press pass, Lana Oriani ticket to the bank, bitch.
But this chick,
Dude.
Seriously, I'm like, we get to go to the front of the line. She's like, I'm gonna see.
Wait, we had the right to go to the front of the line, but I said no.
Like, I'm just gonna see.
I want to be like everybody else. I want to be like a common folk. There you go. And then I put it on, okay? And I displayed myself as media that way that, people knew not to talk to me because it's a gag order and shit.
They just judged you, like they just prematurely.
All right, and then I was like,
show it.
Everybody was watching me. They're like, oh, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? I just, you know what? I just totally made this off my computer.
Do you have to give it away?
But, woo. Anyways.
You too can have a lanyard.
If you guys want to buy an autograph lanyard, let me know.
Oh my God, they're gonna want to.
I know. Maybe I'll even spray it with my fragrance.
What fragrance is that? You
panty dropping sluts out there. Nah. Come on, give me some panty. And then you guys, I actually I want to show you guys. This has really kept me. This is my my emotional support pickle here. I want to show you guys.
Oh.
Okay, see this right here? Let me show you guys.
She seriously does.
Emotional support pickle. I will always be around to let you know that you are a big deal. Dude, Heather, I love you for this. This is one of my favorite gifts that I got this year for my birthday.
Heather, there's so many Heathers.
Look at that. Boom, boom,
Shout
boom.
her out.
All right. My son loves it. I told him he could have it because I just give everything to him when he likes something. He wears all my shirts now to bed because they're bigger, so on him, and they're super soft. I go look up Homage, type it all up, homage.com or homage, however you want to say it.
Homage or homage, vote, you decide.
And you guys, this is fucking tits right here. But Jack saw it and he said, "Where did you get that?" He knew that it was.
So
he knew that it was new. He knew that he'd never seen it, and he said, "Where'd you get that? I really like that."
I need that pickle.
And I was like, "Buddy, you want it?" But yeah. Oh yeah, the pickle. There she is. Nothing but love, girl.
Which Heather? Tell
Do your
us.
thing. Heather One Dimple.
Oh my God, so cute, Heather One Dimple. She got the last.
Oh, and then she got me a shirt with her face on it, and it says favorite mod or something like that.
My favorite mod. It's so cute.
Yeah. So, anyways, But you guys, yeah, let's do a shot. What do we want to do? Fireball for my birthday? We'll take a shot here. We actually ended up spending the night in Fort Wayne last night. And then I had to get to another court hearing that I crushed this morning. And I had to drive 2.5 hours and be there at 10. So I've been all over. I was in a courthouse yesterday. Then I was in a courthouse this morning. And I was like, I got to get live so I can get to my peeps and let you guys know what has been going on in the world. And then Boston, she knows where I shop. So I got my favorite hoodies and sweatpants. You guys, I love a good hoodie. You don't understand. Hoodies are everything in life. Hoodies are everything. But I got my support, emotional support pickle. So in case you guys are ever wondering if you're not having a good day, just remember that you are a big motherfucking deal. Do that. Come on. All right. Back to the goods. Shot on that. Yeah, I'm about to do a shot. Lana, carry it around. You guys, I'm gonna wear this out tonight. You guys think I play around? I'm gonna wear this out tonight, and I'm gonna change the word. And instead of saying media pass, truth and transparency, I'm gonna put News Nation, Ashley Banfield.
You can't hang out with me.
And I'm gonna see if anybody even notices and be like, oh my God, you're Ashley Banfield. Or oh my God, who's Ashley Banfield? Maybe I should make one that says Nancy Grace's daughter or something like that. But I love people watching, but you gotta always have a prop. So maybe I'll prop it out tonight. You guys, we're a good time, not gonna lie. There is never a dull moment. Like last night, I was like, damn, that defense team, they probably need 4 shots. Let's line them up. And if they happen to come to where we're at, we can just pass them out to whoever. Because they're too classy. But I saw an intern. I was like, I want to get that intern fucked up. I love the intern. He's a good boy. All right. He's a good boy. He's a good man. All right, we're at okay. Nothing further. What do you say here? Oh, this was great. This was great because he talks about the murder sheet. He wanted to rub it in there. He's like, "Where'd you get that from?" He said, "Right here, you guys. It's black and white. NS stamp on all the pages of the Logan PCA. What's that mean?" He called it he said murder sheet logo stamp on all the pages of. What does that mean? Why is that on all of your stuff? That's how Hennessy put it to them. You guys, I thought that was, he's just so, he's a cute, he's funny, man. He's funny.
He's a pimp.
He is, man. If he had a cane.
No, he did have a cane. You missed it.
Oh, I want to see his cane.
But we did tell him. And then Lana tried to hug and kiss him on the cheek in a very awkward, because we were sitting down and he was bending over behind us, leaning in with his good ear. Yeah. And so, and then in between my head and Lana's head, and I was telling him how amazing he did.
Oh, and yes.
Lana goes, you did so well. And then Lana went too.
I tried to give a backwards hug.
Show them.
I did. I did. Do both hands
because they can't see because there's something in the way.
All right, so this is what I did is I told you guys I was sitting in the last row. And so when Daddy Hennessy comes back and walks around to come back, so he's right behind me. He leans in and we were telling him something. Hey, you did a really good job.
You just killed it.
Yeah, he did. I think that he oral argued phenomenally. I mean, law-wise, he blew them away. Whether or not she wants to just fucking keep, sustaining shit and not admitting things and saying, that's on her. That's her. But he did great. And so I was like, hey, we really appreciate what you've done. And so I go like this to reach around and I grab him by his little head and I bring him in for a little behind the, like a hug like that.
All I see is Lana's hands going up around his
neck. God. And I think he loved it.
He did. I think he loved it. But
I was like this.
Wanted to smoke really bad.
Yeah. And you know what?
What? He deserved it.
No, I want to take him to the racetracks. I want to whatever he enjoys in life. I want to.
Bukowski?
I don't know whatever Hennessy likes though. I would love to like, hey, do you want a lap dance? Like, what do you want? What would make you like, you know?
I'm not gonna say
Like dude, for his age to be able to keep up with like this YouTube shit, to be able to try to go in there and oral argue who Fig solves is or
no, but he was psyching. I just love that he was like to try to do a chest bump to Holman and to Rector, and they got kind of scared. They were like kind of scared.
I was like, that's my buddy. I was like,
I'm glad you showed them what that looked like.
It was like my grandpa, man. I don't know.
It was really good. And then, did you end up patting him on the cheek on top of everything else, or the ass?
No, I just rubbed his head a little bit.
You didn't like boom 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 his butt?
No. I wasn't in a situation to be able to do that. I was sitting down. But I just, all I know is that, you know, he's.
All I know is I just saw your hands all over.
He's Crusher, man.
And then we have like all these armed guards around us. So I'm like,
Oh my god, totally. I was like, we're going to prison.
We're going to prison.
Oh yeah, he says, did you review email? He says yes. He says, did you directed to Brad, not Brandon? Right here. When he says yes, he's like, okay, yeah, so directed to Brad, not Brandon. And he says, yes. It was priceless. He's like, okay, no more further questions. So the email was directed to, because he was trying to find anybody who has reviewed this email. Finally, you, Rector, Mr. Recty, you reviewed the email. Okay, great. So you saw that it said to Brad, not Brandon. And he says, yes. No more further questions. And he said, nothing further. And I was like, boom, mic drop. And then this is when it was a great time to take our lunch break. And it's going to be a great time to have story time when I come back, when you're going to see, this is when part 2, yep, this is a great time to pause here. Because then part 2, when I do it here later tonight, I'll do it later. It's going to be.
Tonight is your birthday. I don't know if you're going to do it tonight. We might be doing things all night.
Okay.
I mean, but you can schedule it. Take
right. Or we could do tomorrow. But I want to round this up. Bob Mata was sitting in front of us. Love him. Love Bob Mata.
Bob was amazing. Because
I told you know what I told Bob is I said, hey, I have my projector. I want to do, because he was taking notes too. That's what I love about Bob. He is so down to earth. He does not like rub. He doesn't rub me off like you. Like that lawyer, you think you're better than like who I'm a human.
No, he said no. Yeah. Actually, that's his words. He's like, no,
yeah.
I'm like a normal person.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, because I'll say it, and I have no problem saying it. You having a law degree, what the fuck? No offense, but and maybe I don't want a law degree, but I totally know that I think that I could pass the bar like you did. Everybody has their strengths. But when you try to act like you are, I don't know, and I don't want to say better, because it's okay to be better than people in terms of like, when I'm talking about like researchers. Okay. So like I'm in the same category. If like I was a researcher, then compare yourself to that, you know, a basketball player comparing themselves to another basketball player and them saying that they're the best in the world with, you know, with basketball or whatever. But by you trying to think that you are better than somebody else because of a career choice, now that's when I just laugh. But I can sit here and say that, and so should you. If I'm the best nurse, you know, you want to categorize what you do. Amazing. I have no issues with that. But when you want to say that you think that you're better than somebody because of what you do versus what they do, now I laugh about that. Because that's not how, you know, you want to rank yourself in what you do. Awesome. We should have pride in our work.
Bob told me what an OA is without making fun of me. I was like, Bob, what's an OA? I'm sorry. Like, is this a dumb question? What the hell is an OA? Why should I know what that is? And he told me, I go, thanks for not making fun of us. I'm just.
What's an OA? War Eagle says, I lost all respect for Rick Snay, though. You know what? I'm just disappointed because there was an opportunity for you to contribute. And it's like winning like a state championship. You can go be the best player and be on a shitty ass team and score 40 points, drop 10 rebounds, do a triple double, but you ain't shit. You didn't win, right? You lost. Or you could be part of something that's bigger than you and actually be like a contributor and actually make a difference, right? Right? Think about it, right? And here, this motherfucker, he doesn't get that concept. You had an opportunity to truly have relevant material that could have made a difference, and you fucked that up. That tells me everything about like who you truly are, like here. Like how do you lose how do you lose sight of that? Because I was actually giving him props for the CW. Actually, I just saw it for the first time on our way to Indiana. I told Bella to put it on. I said, let me hear.
Snay looks really good. I mean, if you don't know anything about the case, which like kind of we don't, we were just told.
Yeah, I don't get involved with all that stuff. But what I cared about was he was in a position where he was needed, and he had something relevant. And it's like, you cared more about your beef. That's how I took it. And it's just like, that'd be like me, I guess.
No, don't about me.
I'm just trying to compare because I like to like put myself in someone's shoes.
Always, but I mean,
and I think the best way that I think that I could say that is back in the day when I was a college athlete, and that would be like the crowd like taunting you, okay? And you let the crowd influence you that you got a technical and then you just got taken out of a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Like you're a main contributor, or you're about to be a main contributor for that night, for that game, right? We're all getting we're going through warm-ups. Next thing I know, somebody in the crowd says, "My mother is a fat pig," and I lose it. Like, I don't give a fuck what you think about my mom.
Exactly.
Fuck, are you kidding? Like, and you just showed way more about you than you will ever show about me or my mom. But you can't take a little fucking dude. I used to have signs up heckling shit all the time. That's part of the atmosphere. I love that shit. I thrive off of that shit. Put my ass in a corner, back me up, see how I play, see what the fuck I do. I don't own you with my words. I own you with my performance. I own you with, dude, you cannot touch my work. You will never outwork me. And I don't mean in the sense of how many hours I put into it. I'll work smarter versus harder all the time. But I'm talking about, you don't get it. You put yourself in a situation to be fucked with, and you got fucked with. And then you took yourself out of a situation because you thought going at somebody was more. Just like if I was to go at that rowdy person in a basketball game, I would get a technical. I would be ejected. I wouldn't be able to play the game. And that's what I look at. I was like, damn, if he was like warming up with our team, this motherfucker would see a sign or a fathead that said, "Fuck you, Snay takes dicks to the mouth." And he'd be like going at the motherfucker in the stands. And it's just like, who cares? Who cares? And then Nick McClellan right here. All right, guys, that's enough. You guys rock. Love this channel. Love what we stand for. Love the mods. Love the love on my birthday.
Let's say happy birthday again.
Oh yeah, here we can do a shot. Cheers.
Yeah, let her do a shot with y'all.
Yeah, cheers, guys. This is for all the moms out there. For all the moms.
Non-moms. What about the fur moms?
They are mom too. What you want me to like?
Man.
I don't say this is for the black moms. This is for the white moms. I just say all the moms out there. You know if you're a mom. All those aunts playing mommy. You know if you're a mom. Cheers. They all get so technical about shit. I'm just like, no. Oh, love you back, Miss Kelly. Yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Like that guy who jumped off the college women's basketball the other week. Girl, I don't know. Oh, wait, did you guys pick your brackets? Get on those brackets. Tonight's the first game. I got, go look at the top 10 average points per game teams. You have to be able to score in the NCAA tournament to win. So go look at those top 10 teams based off of their scoring averages per game. Take those teams far in your bracket. That's my advice. I got that advice off of a coach that was the men's basketball assistant coach at Cincinnati when I was there playing on the women's team. Coach Pete, rest his soul. But one year we were doing our brackets. I was like, how do you pick your bracket? He's like, man, you cannot, you know what it's like. If you want to beat somebody, you have to be able to outscore them. So pick teams that can score points. And it's so true. Defense in March Madness, yeah, it'll keep you in a game, Okay. But you can't win unless I got to be able to score when it matters. So that's my advice on the March Madness brackets. So I took James Madison to the Sweet 16. I have them upsetting because they are in the top 10 on scoring offenses per points per game. James Madison. So take that advice. Who knows? Maybe they get upset the first round, but I have James Madison as my sleeper. They're in the top in the country. James Madison men's basketball is in the top 10 for offensive scoring per game. And I was like, damn. So anyways, I think I took Arizona. I have Arizona, Houston. I have do I have Kentucky coming? No, I have Houston coming out of there. I have Arizona coming out of there. Who do I have? I have UConn losing to Arizona to go to the final or in the Final Four. I'll show you guys my brackets tomorrow. Maybe tonight, but you guys rock. Keep it cool. Keep it cool. Be safe. Everybody be safe. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, been drinking or anything, right?
No.
Okay.
We've
drive
been
careful,
drinking.
Okay?
Don't you lie.
This is with the other group that ran away.
Oh, really? You just ditched it? Awesome.
Yeah, those ones kept walking in the car. And
It's truly for the win.
That I was given to. So there was 2 different discs. Okay. They all knew about it.
We're not here to talk about the alcohol stuff, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But this is the second noise complaint we've had here tonight within 2 hours. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
I see noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
Nothing against having a party. Once neighbors start calling in, then we have an issue.
Like brains, and like if you need a lot of brains, you're gonna be in trouble.